Thank you very much, Mary. Welcome to all of you as you join us here this evening, wherever you're from, whether you're from the Diocese of Derry or from elsewhere. I think we're all passionately concerned about education for our young people. And this Catholic Schools Week gives us an opportunity to reflect on what it is we're trying to do and to dig deep into the qualities, the joys, the challenges for Catholic schools in 2021. And we have one of our very experienced Catholic teachers and Catholic principals from the city here with me this evening. So I'm delighted to welcome you, Joyce. You've spent a long time in Catholic education. How did you end up in your current position of being principal in the Long Tower Primary School?
Well, I've been over 30 years in working in Catholic schools, and I suppose I started teaching in England, and I suppose I was inspired to go into teaching really by I had great experiences at school. And you know, I have to honestly say I had lovely teachers who really reflected the Catholic values.
Here in the city?
In Derry here. And in particular, I had a teacher at Thornhill, Sister Christopher, who sadly passed away last year. And she inspired me to go into teaching. And so I started my teaching career, as I said, in a small Catholic school in Dunstable in Bedfordshire. Great community spirit, really represented what Catholicism was about. And after 2 years, I decided we would get married, and of course I went back to Mammy, and so I applied for a job in Derry to get back home, much against my husband's wishes, in fairness, but you know, I love that sense of family and that sense of belonging. That's what I had been brought up in. And you know, if you take it right back, I suppose my mother was the first educator of my father, you know. And but I came back to Derry anyway, and when I was leaving the school in England, the principal there said to me, "Work hard, become a head teacher, Joyce." And at the time I was too full of the plans for getting married. It really didn't mean an awful lot to me. But when I got back, within a month of getting married, I enrolled in the master's degree at McGee, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to work hard at this. I felt it was a vocation. And you know, I have great belief in what our Lord said in the Gospel of John. You did not choose me, I chose you. And so I felt this was my calling, and I've always felt that, and I still feel it. You know, I'm so grateful that this was my vocation. And so I came back to Long Towers, was 14 years a teacher in Long Tower, and then I went for 7 years then as a vice principal down to Hollybush. And again, another fantastically community-driven school. Learned so much there under the guidance of Carmel Dunn. But I always had a yearning for Long Tower, because Long Tower was very dear to my heart and had, you know, there's something very spiritual about Long Tower. Anybody who's at Long Tower wants to stay in Long Tower. There's great tradition, great family values in the area. And so the job came up as principal, and I applied, and I was blessed to have been given the job. And so here I am now, back in Long Tower, 8 years in.
And looking like somebody who's enjoying it.
Well, you know, it has its challenges, like everything, you know.
What are the big joys of being a teacher in an inner city school which faces all sorts of challenges? What gives you the joy? What gives you the spring in your step to go into work?
Well, without a doubt, there are challenges. But, you know, it's a great privilege for me to be in Long Tower. Great privilege to lead a school. Great privilege that you are responsible for forming these children. You are helping God's plan. God had a plan for these children. He has a plan for every one of us. You know, in Jeremiah, he lays that out very clearly. You know, I have a plan for you. And we are part of fulfilling that plan for our children and our care. And we don't see the end of that. We leave children at the end of primary school, they go on to secondary, and they grow into adulthood. But we have great hope and great faith that the work we're doing is contributing to them being effective adults in life and living life according to the gospel values, you know, of integrity, compassion, living out the kind of life that Jesus would want them to live out. And we hope that we're at least somewhat instrumental in that. We don't always get it right, you know. But when I see children, I mean, schools don't have children to the extent that we had. Like, we have some children in at the minute, but school is not a school without children. So the real joy in a school is our children. You know, and what never ceases to amaze me is the trust and the innocence and the faith that children have in us. And sometimes, like in my role, if a children does something they shouldn't do, they're sent to me, and I'll have to give out. And you know, one thing that I really love seeing in children, and what really, you know, I never cease to, you know, be in awe of this, is I could give out to a child, and they'll go back to their room or whatever, and I'll see them 20 minutes later, and they'll say, "Hello, Mrs. Logue, how are you?" And I think, well, isn't that a great way to be, that you do not hold grudges? You know, the way the rest of us would be thinking, "Oh, she's after giving out to me," and you'd be a bit hurt by it, and you'd be a bit put off. But more than enough children will get past that, and there's a lesson in that for all of us, isn't there?
You obviously know your children. Perhaps you knew the parents of some of your children as well.
I did. I knew quite a lot of the parents, and because we're quite a small school, like we're just under 300 in the school, and we're quite a close staff. You know, when I returned to Longtower after being in Hollybush, the staff greeted me and said, "You're home again, Joyce." And you know, that's how I felt. That is how I felt, because I felt I knew the people. You know, I'd been there for all that time before, and but I felt I knew the people and was part of the people. And the parents were so involved and so given, and often they didn't have an awful lot, but so willing to give of their time and to give of what they had, and to work with us. And you know, even at like the big celebrations for us in school, say, would be our confirmation, our first communion. Sure, isn't that a great coming together? And that's where we meet all the parents and we can catch up on things that happened before, and you know, and that's where we're living out the gospel, isn't it? We're in community. We're welcoming all.
You obviously have a strong sense of an ethos, an identity, a sense of belonging to a faith community that gives you strength and inspiration.
Very much so. And that's a challenge. It's a challenge for me. I mean, I work with great staff. We have Father Mullen up there, who is, like, we'd be lost without him, helping us create that sense of community and helping us deliver the faith. You know, parents have a big input, you know, all the local community groups. But it's a challenge for me to ensure that I nurture my own faith. Because if I am not nurturing my faith, I can't pass that on to the other teachers, because they have to bring the children along. It is on me and those teachers to bring the children along so that they know God. And
leadership, obviously, it's about modelling good practice. You can't ask teachers to treat people in a way that you're not treating them.
And you know, you can't bluff that. Teachers see that. Teachers see you for what you are. And you know, we are very, very blessed. We have excellent teachers. Our RE coordinator, Miss Bo, today has just put out a video of teachers discussing their prayer life. Not everyone is happy to do that and elsewhere, but I was just amazed, and so was Miss Bo, at how easily people are willing to talk about their faith and what's important to them and where the foundation for that faith came. And these are young teachers. And you asked earlier about what gives me joy. That gives me such joy, because I know that our children are seeing Jesus and they're in the classrooms and taking that home with them, because the teachers are giving it to the children. You know, what more could I ask for?
And you're forming the next generation of school leaders.
Yeah, we're forming the next generation of school leaders, and you know, even with our children, we're sending these children out throughout the world. I mean, Longtower children, like many of the schools in the area, our people go far and wide. You know, America, Australia. We are sending the faith out around the world, spreading the word.
Underachievement's a big topic of conversation in education generally nowadays, and obviously you'll have a whole range of abilities in the school, and you want everyone to achieve to their ability. Have you found that the community of the school is a significant element in helping to support your work to make children achieve the very best, to become the very best they can be?
Every element of the school is essential to ensuring children achieve. And you know, we talk about achievement, and for most of us when we say achievement, we're talking about academics. But it's a lot more than that. It's feeling self-worth, it's having self-belief, it's believing that they have a potential that God gave them, that God has a plan for them, that God formed them, that they are precious in His eyes, and that they can go out there and they can be whoever or whatever they want to be. And that takes everybody in the community to do that. Like Joyce Logue on her own cannot do that. Joyce Logue will have the vision and set out what we need, but we need everyone working together for that. From the Board of Governors to the parish, the parents, we need everyone coming together to support myself and the teachers and delivering to these children what they deserve. And I mean, underachievement has been with us a long time, and as you're aware, I'm working on a panel to try and address underachievement. But it is about, if we break down barriers to learning for children, if we make children feel good about themselves, that will go a long way to helping children improve. Pope Francis was speaking to a group of boys, I'm not sure where, you know, but he spoke of the language of mind, heart and hands. And he spoke, you know, the language of minds is the language that we need to develop the academic. And, you know, the thinking, children's thinking. Let them think and let them, you know, learn what they need to learn. But we also need to learn children the softer skills. How do you feel empathy? How do you think for other people? How to go out there and, you know, understand the world. And the final one was the hands, and that was reaching out to people. How do we help people? How do we actually put into action? What do we do? And by doing that, we are showing God's love. And, you know, so we talk about underachievement, but there's a lot more to underachievement than passing an exam or failing an exam. It is developing that whole child and using those three basic languages.
Head, heart and hands. Because the most important job any of us will do is to be a human being.
Yeah, that's right.
Not to do a job. Obviously you have a strong sense of community, a very strong connection with the parish. The parish priest has a very significant role, and yet that has not created an inward-looking community in the school. You have a very strong link with the Tower Primary School. Tell us how that came across.
With the Fountain Primary School.
Fountain Primary School, sorry.
We have been working with Fountain Primary School. I mean, you're probably aware there have been initiatives like EMU, Education for Mutual Understanding, CRED. You know, there have been a lot of initiatives to bring schools together. And sometimes that can be a bit manufactured. And when I started in Longtower in the early 90s, there was a great relationship between Longtower and the Fountain Primary School. And that continues to this day, with or without initiatives. And the initiatives are great because they enable us to have money to spend on vital resources. But I think deeper than that, we are called as Catholics and Christians to reach out to others. And in our reaching out to the Fountain Primary School, we're delivering the gospel. We're working in tandem with another school. We are breaking down barriers that tell our children, you know, you're here and another school's there. You know, our children go up to the fountain and they will do lessons up there, language, art, world around us. They learn about people from different faiths and cultures. And likewise, the Fountain Primary School children will come down to us. But not only that, the staff up in the Fountain Primary School, they'd be friends with some of our staff. Actually friends that they would text and they would phone and see how you're doing. You know, like I lost my mother there at the end of November. Principal of the Fountain is on the phone to me, are you okay? Can I do anything for you? You know, is there anything you need done in your absence? And things like that, they're important. And that's our Christian values and our Catholic values. And we're sharing those.
you're enriched by that, and they're enriched by that. Everyone benefits from it. So the bonds that you have as a Catholic school and the strong nourishment you get from that actually enables you to go out, rather than being something that builds up walls. You're reaching through a very visible barrier across the street from you, in order to be of assistance to all the young people, so that they grow up with head, heart and hands.
And open to others,
Certainly. Has lockdown been very challenging?
Oh, lockdown has brought its challenges, especially when you're, technologically challenged as I am. But it has brought its challenges. As I said in Long Tower, we're a family, but at the minute we're a family apart. Just like many families are apart, people cannot go and see grandparents and that. And, children miss school, they miss their friends. We're trying to ensure that children are learning. Children are learning online. Some children prefer hard copy work, and it's very hard to keep that momentum going, because parents are working. Parents have other children at home. It's very hard, for them to ensure their children are receiving the education that they need, that they would get in school. In the first lockdown there was a bit of excitement, but this lockdown, it's getting a bit more boring. It's January, and people are now beginning to get a bit fed up with it. But when I went out to school this morning, I could see the crocuses coming up through the ground, and I thought, here we go, spring is coming, hope is in the air. The earth is renewing itself, and we'll renew ourselves. We'll be renewed, and we'll be the better off for it, because I think we've learnt a simplicity. We're not going out to the pictures, we're not going out to the dances, we're not going wherever there's not that rush or that buying frenzy that we usually do. We're taking time, we're finding peace, we're rediscovering who we are and who our families are.
And the important things, the important little things. Like the principal phoning you.
Exactly. We're realising really what is important in life, and what, even learning to cook, even making better dinners at home, because you have more time and things like that. So while it has brought challenges, there's been a lot of good come out of it, as we've seen in our communities. The amount of good work. A group of our staff got together, made up hampers to give out to people who they felt might have needed it. So I have just seen so much good come out of COVID, so much of living the faith practically, reaching out to others, from staff in school, from the local community, just all around, people helping people.
I hear a strong sense, of community in the school. And strong sense of belonging to a faith community too, the parish being very important,
very much.
The church being close to you. And also a strong sense of being part of a wider community in the local area, and a sense of your belonging in a big world. There are people who are suffering, and the Croke recollections, and all of those things.
And one of our charities would be Children Helping Children, and our primary 4 children and our primary 7 children, when they would make their first communion and their confirmation, we would encourage the children to make a donation to others, just so the children would be aware that there's others out there who are less fortunate, and all of us has a role to look after the less fortunate. We must reach out to others and look after others. And so, we'd be involved in a lot of charities. Some of our children during lockdown wrote letters for the old people and took them up just before Christmas. Things like that. It encourages a sense of empathy in our children, and that's important.
I remember someone saying that teachers don't teach subjects, they teach pupils.
Well, that is very, very true. You teach the children in front of you, and every child is made in the image of God, and I think that is so important. That
and sensing that can take a long time for some people who felt hurt or damaged or rejected.
And we have to know where children come from, because every child is different, and every child needs to be treated different, and we need to look after our children and ensure that we are helping them reach their God-given potential.
I'm very impressed by that fact that God is running through all of your conversation, Joyce, whether it's that sense of personal vocation that you have yourself, or that sense of helping them to discover the dignity that they have as children of God, all of which facilitates their learning better, being proud of themselves, wanting to become something great, believing that they can achieve many things rather than being put down. And it also gives you the ability to reach out to other people. Because sometimes people see Catholic education as being very enclosed and narrow-minded and exclusive and surrounded by barriers, but I hear a vision for Catholic education.
I've never known Catholic education to be divisive or to be sectarian. I have always known Catholic education, even in my time in England, and my time in Hollybush, my time in Long Tower. I've always known Catholic education to be given of itself, to be putting out there, to be looking after all of us, all out there. I've never known it to be divisive, but very, very inclusive and willing to bring people in and to respect, while you may be different, you're still very welcome and you're still valued in God's eyes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
You have a school there, a wonderful school obviously, in a place where since the time of St. Columba, learning has been going on. So clearly you're standing on the shoulders of giants who've gone before you. I'm sure people will come after you and be very grateful for all the work that you have done to help the many challenged families and young people in your community to believe in themselves and to believe in a God who believes in them. Joyce Logue, Principal of Long Tower Primary School, thank you so much for being here this evening. Thank you for sharing your own journey. Thank you for sharing your faith. Thank you for sharing your vision of what Catholic education has enabled you to become and you to offer to your young people. Thank you for being here this evening, and please God we can meet again for another session, same time tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. Good night and God bless.
Thank you.